All right, happy Friday. Welcome back into Reiter's Block, presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook. Watch on Bill Reiter. I'm in Los Angeles, California. Toronto Raptors won Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Todd Fuhrman's going to come on, help you make some money like he did last night for those of you watching CBS Sports HQ when he appeared. And we've got the translation machine to tell you what some of those Golden State Warriors were actually thinking and feeling after that loss. All of that and a few things more begin right now on the show. So let's start here. Hey, congratulations, Raptors fans. Congratulations, Toronto. Congratulations, Canada. You are up in this series 1-0. And what a hell of a way to have a first ever NBA Finals game in that country and for that organization. Congrats. Very, very cool. But we know it's a long series. There's a long ways to go between now, even last night, and crowning whichever of these two teams are going to be NBA champions. So we're going to go through some of the big takeaways from last night with the benefit of some hindsight, the ability to sleep on it, to make some calls to sources, to analyze it, and tell you what we think some of these things do and don't mean. And let's start with Pascal Siakam, who was awesome. I mean, this was a heroic effort. It's the best performance in his career given the stakes. 32 points last night. He shot 82% from the field for a young man, as I'm sure you heard throughout the broadcast, and it's worth repeating a lot. He did not witness, with his own eyes, see his first NBA game until he was 16 years old. And obviously and clearly, the Raptors, and any team that's trying to chase down an NBA championship, regardless of the opponent, but certainly against the Golden State Warriors, you need multiple guys to step up. And Siakam was awesome. He was incredible. He played the game of his life. I'm not sure you can rely on that level of efficiency and that number of points throughout the series. It's not a shot, not taking anything away from the guy, but that was most likely a one-off, the idea of that young man playing like Michael Jordan. Takeaway 2 for me, Klay Thompson, I don't know if abysmal's the word, but he certainly did not play well. Easily outscored by Pascal Siakam. And, the 21 points, not wildly efficient. Plus minus wasn't very good. Missed some big shots when it felt like the Warriors, despite how badly they played, had a chance at the game. He's got to be better at least at times. He's got to step up, and he's got to be great throughout the series. And I think he will be. And I know that Klay, for the last few years, has been a sidekick in the eyes of a lot of fans. Draymond Green got the triple-double last night. Steph Curry got all the points. We'll get to that in a second. Klay's been an afterthought for so long. And I think unfairly. The guy's an offensive menace. He's going to have to be more than that in this series. He's going to have to be front and center with his excellence, at least until Kevin Durant comes back. But here's the big takeaway for me. Here's the reason that Warriors team did not win that game last night, or at least the reason that they lost. Their defense was absolutely atrocious. 118 points against that Raptors team, unacceptable. Can't happen. Got to be better. And it's worth noting that before Durant showed up, the Warriors were a top 10 defensive team every single year that they made a run for the finals, and really in Durant's first couple years, except for the one year when they didn't get it done and they lost to LeBron and co. Their defense is always defined their excellence, even if it's the offense that we've talked about, and defensively they were terrible last night. 17 turnovers, gave up 24 points on the fast break. I mean, they just did not play well. A lot of boneheaded plays, a lot of mental breakdowns, a lot of defensive breakdowns. The Warriors are unlikely to play that level of brutal defense going forward. And then the other takeaway that I have that I think is interesting, and I'm not making excuses for the Warriors' loss. I think it's great defense and it's a great game plan by Nick Nurse. But Stephen Curry was manhandled throughout the night when he was away from the ball. This Raptors team was physical with him. They got bodies on him. They got his hands. They're grabbing his jersey, and it flustered him. And I know he had a really big night, but he wasn't able to get in the rhythm that he wanted, and especially when Kevin Durant's not on the floor. When KD's out, which he is, and he probably will be for Game 2, maybe longer, this is a team whose offensive excellence, it all flows through Steph Curry. His ability to help the ball move and the way that he can make this team feel like a unit. It was nullified a little bit, I thought, last night by how physical the Raptors were with Steph. He's going to find a way around it. Steve Kerr is as good in game and game-to-game adjustments as anybody in the league. And certainly when they get to Oracle, and maybe even after Game 1 with all the emotion, the excitement of that Toronto crowd, the two-time MVP and one of the best players in the game and the history of the game, probably going to get a few more whistles, whether he should or whether he should not. Here's my primary takeaway. After all those things are said, look, Kawhi was great, and even better than the box score indicated, even better than the 23 points last night. He impacted the game in so many ways. We know Marc Gasol was awesome, but watching that game and rewatching some of it this morning, I was struck by how badly the Warriors played, by how incredibly well Toronto played. I mean, Siakam doing what he did, Gasol doing what he did, and still, there were times it was a pretty close game. Got to 4 in the second half, got to 7 with a little bit of time left in the fourth quarter. The Warriors should have lost that game by 20 or 25 points. They're going to be fine, and I don't think it's sour grapes. I actually think it's just real confidence and candor and clarity when Draymond Green, after the game, after the loss, I think pre-kerfuffle with Drake, talked about, yeah, we lost, but we feel pretty good about where we're at.
Number one, we got a little conditioning back. Start that game, it was a bit rough after 9-10 days off. But now that we got a feel for them, we got a tape to watch. We know what we can do better. I like where we're at, especially, like I said, the way the game went tonight. We always had a chance, and we didn't play very well at all. So,
well, we'll do Bill's Big Bet in a little bit. I really want the line to get to 3. I think last I looked, it's moving, it depends where you look, but it looked like Warriors +2. I needed to get to 3. But I will say this, and it's not like I'm on any kind of a roll, and we'll hit this later on. I have covered so many of these Warriors series when they have been down and people have written them off. Now, I wasn't at that Memphis series in that what became first run for Golden State to win their first NBA championship, but when they were down 2-1 in the second round against the Grizzlies, guys like Charles Barkley, that's when they started to write them off. So you can't win, can't get it done when you're a three-point shooting team. They did in 2015, down 2-1 to Cleveland. They did in 2016, down 3-1 to Oklahoma City. I was at both of those series, and there was this sense of inevitability, like there has been the times they've gotten behind against the Rockets, particularly last year, at least for me, and I've made some money on this. There's this feeling that the Warriors weren't playing well, weren't playing their best basketball, and still looked like the better team even when they lost. I'm not saying that's the case with the Raptors here, but it very well might be. Kawhi's a different kind of animal to have to attack, a different kind of challenger that stands in their way than a James Harden, than a Kevin Durant. He is as formidable as LeBron James in his own way for Golden State to go through. But the fact is, the Warriors have been here before. They don't panic. They haven't seen this Raptors team particularly, and they're going to be just fine. They're going to be just fine. I love the Warriors in this series, and I'm almost tempted. We'll talk to Todd Fuhrman about this. I'm almost tempted to wait and see if Toronto can win Game 2, and then when they're underdogs, bet on Golden State to win this NBA Finals. In part because I don't think they need Kevin Durant. Of course it makes them better. Of course it makes them better. So many people are overreacting this notion, this idea, oh, they need KD. They lost a single game in the finals in Toronto after 9 days off. That's a lot of rust for Golden State trying to shake off. And remember, they had 5 more days on the shelf gathering dust, not playing, than the Toronto Raptors. 5 extra days off in this really long layover with the way the NBA Finals schedule now works. I'm with Steve Kerr. Kevin Durant's great. But it's not like these are a bunch of bums out there without him.
If he's out there, he's pretty good. So, but if he's not out there, we play with the guys we have, and we've got enough. We've won the last 6 games without him, 5-6 games. So we have enough.
You look at the 5 full games without KD in this postseason, and you compare what the Warriors have done without KD to last night's game against Toronto. The number that jumps out, is the defensive rating. 121.6 last night against 107.2 throughout those other 5 games. And Kevin Durant's a great player, but it's not like he's the defensive player of the year. And I know he's a very important piece of what they do, and he's very good. He's long on defense. I get it. The Warriors played terrible defense. They were a little discombobulated. They were rusty. Siakam had an all-time performance. Good for him. This is by far still a very long series. I still love the Warriors. If you see value for the Warriors, you see the right line, I like it. And what I may do, and we'll talk to Todd about this, I may see if Toronto, because the Andre Iguodala injury and the fact he's not going to be in game 2 makes me nervous. If Toronto, as a result, can win that game, I'm not sure that they will. I love a parlay of Steph Curry, Finals MVP, and the Warriors to win the whole thing once they're down 2-0. Don't overreact. Don't freak out. Look at the whole and the lessons from game 1, and it's this. The Raptors are legitimate. We know that. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's overreacting to that. But the Warriors are still the Warriors, and I promise you, they're going to be just fine. There's no major takeaways about Golden State other than play better defense, which they will because they've been through this before. We'll get Todd Fuhrman's perspective. Fuhrman, our NBA or one of our, not NBA, Vegas analyst, should be an NBA analyst, crushed his prop bets yesterday. Crushed his prop bets, made a bunch of money. So you want his insight, you want his expertise. We're going to get it from Las Vegas, Nevada here on Writer's Block when we come back in just a moment. All right, welcome back into Writer's Block presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook. Watch, caught up with Todd Fuhrman earlier in Vegas. Great insight. Where you should be putting your money. Here's his perspective. All right, there he is. It's Todd Fuhrman. Tell you this guy will make you some money, and he crushed it last night. Went 5-3. All right, you had Toronto first half, Toronto -1, Siakam outscoring Clay. I think Clay on the under was 22.5. Fuhrman, my man, those are nice. Those are nice days.
You know what? Anytime things all come together as far as a plan working the way you want, Bill, you never try and tempt the fates with the gambling gods. The only prop, though, I was a little disappointed I wasn't able to cash, and it was a long shot going in. Pascal Siakam at 25-1 to be the leading scorer in game 1. It was all those late buckets for Steph Curry that took a very good night and kept it from being an absolutely tremendous evening from a wagering perspective.
Let's be honest, that's just straight selfishness by Steph. Steph, the game's over, bro. Just let Fuhrman and those people smart enough to follow his advice make their money. All right, Fuhrman, I didn't even bet game 1. I'm on such a cold streak. I just sat that one out too. Give me but I can't. I'm jonesing already. Game 2, what do you like? What do you see? How should we be betting that game?
Well, I think it's interesting, Bill, because we saw odds makers open Golden State a 1-point favorite for game 2. That number lasted about 7 seconds. And as we look around the market now, consensus is the Raptors a 2-point favorite, which is actually up a half a point from where they closed for game 1. Now, of course, a major injury that we're going to keep tabs on. It doesn't look like Andre Iguodala is going to be available for the Warriors on Sunday. And that is an absolutely massive loss because when I watched game 1 play out, I think Golden State was fine offensively. We knew it was going to be an adjustment against a top 5 team in the Raptors from a defensive efficiency standpoint. A much taller task than the 3 lightweights that they were able to run through in the Western Conference. But if Iggy isn't out there, you wonder how they're going to go about defending Pascal Siakam. We saw Marc Gasol go for 20 points, and he looked like he was closer to the scrap heap for the most of the playoff games that we'd seen in the Eastern Conference. Kawhi, pretty pedestrian by his standards. So I actually would lean towards the Raptors here at -2. Not nearly with the same conviction, though, that I had backing them in game 1, knowing how electric that building was going to be.
All right, Todd, as we look at a broader view here of this series, and we talked about this at the start of the show, I have covered so many Warriors teams that go down 2-1, that have been down Oklahoma City series 3-1, and find a way when they need to ramp it up. And people have gone in 24 hours from the Raptors aren't going to make it a series to the Raptors are going to win the series. Is there any value from your perspective in betting on Golden State to eventually, when it's all said and done, over the course of this finals, be the NBA champions?
I do think there's some value, but Bill, here's the way I would approach it from a betting perspective. Golden State has gone, as you mentioned, from roughly a 1-3 favorite down to -150. So in layman's term, we're talking about risking $3 to make $1 for the Warriors to win their 3rd straight title. Before the series started, now you get the reduced price of putting up $1.50 to make $1. But keep in mind that the Warriors are underdogs in game 2. So if you believe Golden State is ultimately going to win this series, I would be more inclined to back them as an underdog in game 2. If they were to lose that game, hey, the series isn't done by any stretch of the imagination. then come over the top and make a case for them to win the series as an underdog for that particular wager, knowing that they're going to be a sizable favorite in Game 3. No, we don't need to eulogize Golden State yet. They lost one game, and the market suggested that they would. I think they'll be just fine. Steve Kerr will make adjustments, but you do wonder where that third or fourth scorer is going to come from, because Draymond's got to go for more than 10. Maybe it's Kevon Looney logging minutes, but I think we're going to see a lot of mixing and matching with that Golden State second unit.
I love it. With the Iguodala injury, too, I mean, certainly the Raptors can win this game. The most lucrative parlay of my life that I actually did sober, if we're being honest. I've had some lucrative ones in Vegas that I shouldn't have hit. But the most lucrative sober parlay of my life was last year when I bet both Warriors and Cleveland down. I waited for each of them to get down 3-2, bet they would make the finals, bet on the Warriors, got a nice little line. So am I crazy to just wait out Game 2, and if the Raptors win, I still think if the Raptors win Game 2, the Golden State can win the series. I imagine, Todd, there might be some value there if it goes that direction.
There's no doubt. I mean, if the Raptors were to protect home court, and again, it's not a massive leap of faith knowing that they're short home favorites for the second straight game, you'd be looking at the Warriors in that plus 150, potentially plus 170 range to win the series. They would come into Game 3 as a 5.5, 6 point favorite, maybe a tick lower or a tick higher, depending on how odds makers wanted to build in that desperation. So you figure, okay, they dropped the first two games, they win Game 3. It puts a lot of the onus on Game 4. And as they always say, it's the age-old cliche, but it holds true, especially in the NBA. A series doesn't start until a road team wins a game. And we saw in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Raptors lost the first two on the road. They come home, win 2, and subsequently win 4 straight. I don't think you could rule out the Warriors from being able to do so, especially if we see a little more productivity from DeMarcus Cousins as he gets up to game speed over the next 72 hours.
And I'll say this, even though I know it's stupid, Todd Fuhrman, as someone as smart as you are when it comes to sports gambling, if it happens, probably going to parlay Steph Curry as the finals MVP because I'm the guy that bets the hard ways and craps. Not because I should, just because it makes me feel so very, very alive. So let me ask you this. Today, as things stand now, any bets you like value-wise on the finals MVP?
I don't think you really change your stance after one game. I'm not going to run to the window and say Pascal Siakam is going to go 14 of 17 again and be the linchpin for everything Toronto wants to do offensively. If you like Steph Curry at $1.40 before the series started, you shouldn't be talked off that ledge with his 34-point performance. I was in the Draymond Green camp, thought he offered the most value at a price of 9-1 before closing at 6-1. He goes out there, third straight triple-double, albeit in quiet fashion. So I'm going to stick on Draymond Green. I'm going to stick with the Warriors winning this series in 6, and I'm not going to get swayed based on one 48-minute sample size of basketball.
I love the Draymond Green bet. No player's ever averaged a triple-double in the NBA Finals. Voters like narratives and stories and those sorts of ideas. And if the Warriors win, Draymond keeps doing that statistically, has one big game. That feels like a really good bet, Todd Fuhrman. Before we let you run and just keep dominating all these media fools trying to compete against you on various television shows in the gambling space, we know who I'm talking about. It's okay. You don't have to say anything. Stanley Cup Final Game 3. What do you like there?
I think this is going to be a very interesting game. We saw the Blues overwhelmed by the moment in Game 1. They got off to that 2-0 lead, and then the Bruins dominated, going through an extended stretch where the Blues mustered about one scoring chance over the last 35 minutes of the game. You saw the Blues impose their will physically in Game 2. Jordan Binnington stood on his head with some timely stops. As I look at Game 3, I think the Bruins are going to be the team that makes the adjustments. They need more production from their top unit. David Pasternak, Brad Marchand, those are the guys that have to step up and rise to the occasion. You can't keep leaning on fourth liners in Charlie Coyle, who was acquired at the deadline. Tuukka Rask has been here, done that. I think the Bruins win Game 3. I think the Blues probably win Game 4. And again, before the series, I said Bruins in 6. I'm not going to waver from that prediction, at least at this point. So I like the Bruins at even money to win Game 3.
Fuhrman, great stuff as always, buddy. Thank you for the insight. We'll do it again next week.
Always a pleasure, Bill. Enjoy the games this weekend, my friend.
All right, appreciate Todd Fuhrman. We're going to break out the translation machine for you, tell you what some of those guys were actually thinking after that NBA Finals Game 1 when we come back to the program here in just a minute. Welcome back into Reiter's Blog, brought to you by Stephen versus the Game on Facebook Watch. We're going to talk some NBA again, but We're going to do it with the Rockets. Report yesterday that Mike D'Antoni is not going to continue his contract negotiations with the Rockets. He will coach out his contract this upcoming season, then be a coaching free agent. Let's go inside the numbers on the guru down in Houston and his really interesting career. We start with number 3. In D'Antoni's 3 seasons with the Rockets, Houston has led the NBA in three-pointers made each of the last 3 years. This season, Houston made 218 more threes than the next closest team. That's an extraordinary golf. 70.3. As Houston's head coach, D'Antoni has a regular season win percentage of 70.3%. Among all Rocket head coaching tenures, it is the highest mark by more than 10%. Next up is 59.0. D'Antoni also has the highest playoff win percentage in franchise history at almost 60%. His 23 playoff wins ranks just second behind Rockets coach Rudy Tomjanovich, whose name I just butchered, who led Houston to its only 2 championships. Gotta be honest when you screw up. How about number 1? Last season, D'Antoni had the Rockets just a single game away from reaching the NBA Finals. It was the closest Houston had been to a championship appearance since they made the finals in 1995. They did not win Game 6 or 7, as we know. They lost to the Warriors. And finally, the number 0. In 15 years of head coaching experience, D'Antoni has never made the NBA Finals. Of the 30 head coaches to coach at least 85 playoff games, D'Antoni is one of just 3 to never reach the NBA Finals, which is great. All right, circling back to those NBA Finals, a lot of emotion, a lot of frustration, a lot of guys holding things in. So we're breaking out the translation machine right now, and we're going to feed into it some of the comments we heard from the Warriors after their loss last night to figure out what they actually thought. We'll start with Steph Curry. Steph's the most important guy on that team. He said last night after the game, quote, KD, Kevin Durant, KD is an all-time great player. We've obviously proven that when he's out, we can have guys step up. Translation machine, interpret this for us.
KD who? I'm Steph mother Curry. That fool needs me, not the other way around.
It's a little aggressive, but I don't disagree. I actually don't disagree. I like translation machine, bursting through the overly niceness and cautiousness. All right, Draymond Green. I love Draymond Green. Who knew he needed a translation machine? Quote, we didn't play very well tonight at all, and we still had a chance the entire game. Translation machine, what is Draymond Green telling us?
The Raptors are garbage. Warriors in 5.
I mean, that's yes, that does sound like. All right, let's use this for a Raptor too. Let's to the victor go the spoils and the revelation of what they're really saying. Kawhi Leonard after the game said, quote, have confidence in yourself that you're going to win. Lay it out on the floor and see what happens. Pretty innocuous stuff. Translation machine, what's Kawhi really thinking here?
Foolish humans. I was created to destroy. Basketball is easy.
I mean, it makes sense. This is true. There's actual UFOs hanging out off the coast of the eastern coast and off of San Diego, and the U.S. government just told us. So why not have Kawhi be one of the guys in those little orbs? Real quick, Bills, big bet of the day. I'm on a cold streak. I really wanted this line to move a little more, but I'm taking Warriors +2. All the reasons I told you at the top of the show. I think they're the better team. Iggy makes me really nervous. Probably going to lose. You should probably fade me. We will see you on Monday. We'll find out then. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Bill Reiter. This is Reiter's Block. They're taking over right now in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.